sorry. I didn't realize we started. I thought you were going to show me first. Okay, 1 second. 1, 2. Welcome to episode 9 of season 4. If you just joined, this is Maria of Maria the Arcane on Instagram, and I'm joined by our supreme overlord, Robin, the Tired Witch of Instagram.
Hello! If for some reason you haven't already caught it, on May 27th, we will be hosting another class on Patreon with Ella Harrison, the author of Book of Spells, and she'll be doing a class on spellcrafting, like an intro to spellcrafting, how to write your own spells, that sort of thing. So if you are somebody who is interested in a little expert advice on how to write your own spells, this might be the class for you. Mm-hmm. It's also going to be earlier in the day today. It's going to be 6 hours earlier than we normally host it because she's in Europe. And if the timing works well, then we're going to maintain that earlier class. So we will see.
Yeah.
If you've just joined us this week, every week we talk about upcoming lunar phases and how you can utilize those in your magical practice. The nearest lunar phase to us from this episode coming out is going to be on a cusp. So it is dependent on where you are living as to what phase your new moon is in. So if you are somebody who is living in a time zone that is farther away from me, I'm in California. So somewhere like Australia or I don't know, some parts of Europe, perhaps, your new moon on May 19th is going to be the new moon in Taurus. But if you are somebody who is in the Americas, your new moon is going to be in Gemini. So if we're talking first about the new moon in Taurus, because it is right on that cusp, the new moon in Taurus is a really good moon for getting good grounding and stability. This is a good moon to do things like grounding if you're somebody who does like cleansing baths on new moons or even cleanses your home. It's a good time to kind of take that an extra step further to do things like grounding, perhaps refreshing anything in your home that involves salt, for example. I always associate Taurus in general with grounding, and salt is therefore the go-to crystal. So if you're somebody like me who on the new moon puts salt in the corners of your house, this is a really good time to refresh that. If you're doing the new moon in Gemini, or if you are in a place that has a new moon in Gemini, this is a very curious new moon. It is it is a sign that is always learning and expanding. And so for this new moon, it's a good time period to set intentions that are focusing on that. So perhaps you're somebody who's in a point in your practice where you're going to incorporate something brand new and you're wanting to learn about that and engage with it. This would be a good time to explore that further. So either you are far away from California and you're going to focus on grounding, or you are in the kind of America's Western Europe and you're going to focus on learning and expanding that kind of fun creativity that comes with Gemini. So
yeah.
I hope that wasn't too confusing.
No. I'll be practicing the dark moon in Taurus this go around.
Yeah, that's the day before, for those of you who don't know what the dark moon is.
Yeah, when the moon is at 0%.
Completely black.
Yeah. I will be focusing on like habits when it comes to like time and resources and how I spend them, like if they're good for me, or like, you know, how I'm spending my time. Is this good for me? Is this, even if it's rest, like rest is still important, obviously, but obviously, you know, there's sometimes where you're doing something, you're like, why do I keep doing this? I could be doing so many other things that's way more productive of my time. Like we were just talking before the segment. But that's what I'll be focusing on, the dark moon in Taurus. Now for the Gemini, I think a Gemini, and having a Gemini in my household and was raised around a Gemini, communication is such an important part of the Gemini sign. Like, they communicate quite a bit. And I think that, like, it's perfect as we're starting to get through Mercury retrograde to do some communication spells that get on the right foot, you know, during the season. So when we're out of Mercury retrograde, you know, we have that like stability of like what we learned and all that during Mercury retrograde, but then we also have like a spell that helps us keep communicating well. And then since, you know, Gemini are twins, I think it's also kind of fun to think about a side of yourself that you don't really, that you've shoved away, and you're like, you want to develop it a little bit. And like, let's say
evil Maria. You're gonna bring evil Maria out.
Let's say that, you know, you're in a high stress job, but you want to be a little bit artsy fartsy, and you keep like pushing that part of yourself away. Maybe like take some time this Gemini full moon to kind of develop that other side of yourself.
Yeah. I like that.
Thanks. So, if you just joined us for this episode or haven't listened to the other episodes so far this season, in lieu of choosing a card and discussing it like we have been doing, we'll be having a conversation about the whole different sections in tarot. So far this year, we have gone over the major arcana, the minor, and what each suit generally represents. And we've gone over the aces, the twos, and today we are on the threes. But anyways, typically when we get to the threes, we are starting to see the effects of what we are implementing in our lives in the outside world. It is when we start involving the outside world too, for better or for worse, to help get our goals, ideas, or even new situations off the ground. They are cards of community and expansion. Community and expansion play such a big part in the threes. They can show reaching for a helping hand for things that can't be done alone. I feel like in the modern world, these cards can be hard and difficult to move on from to get to the next steps. Just because, one, we have like a problem with toxic like self-reliance, the way society is now. And, you know, two, communities just aren't what they used to be, especially stateside when we don't live like in walkable places and high stress jobs and things like that. But I digress. These cards, like the Three of Pentacles and Wands, don't have to show actually seeking help face to face. So you can also see the community aspect as these cards as like going to the library, you know, taking a class, or anything that helps you do outside research and get advice from people more knowledgeable from yourself. Now, when we get to cards like the Three of Cups, it reminds us like how important community is when it comes to our happiness. And then we get to the three that sometimes shows seeking help from outside ourselves or involving others in our lives can lead to disappointment, or through this like outside interaction, we are forced to let go of something that wasn't truly serving us so we can move forward in a hopefully healthier way. So how do you view the threes? Are you enjoying your snack?
I actually love threes and hate them. I have like this, I don't know, love-hate relationship with threes. Three in general, when it comes to magic, is such a powerful number, but it also comes as an omen, right? It is almost like, actually, if we're talking about in tarot, three comes up with the Empress. It also comes up with death. And both of those cards is bringing life and taking life, right? Yeah. And so I think that is just such a life force card. And although in the minor arcana, there are times that we can kind of dread the card, like the Three of Swords, it also gives us this kind of pure potential of true feeling and raw emotions that we can then take that forward and make with it what we will. Exactly. Disappointments are like such an important part of our lives, like experiencing them and going through them. That's when we start like changing and evolving. You know,
making
I
real
think it's just
strides.
such a powerful number, just in general. Like, we see it come up in magic, but in tarot especially, it's connected to both ends of this spectrum of
I think
being
that's
alive.
I think that's why people with like the 3 of Cups, they see it as representation of the maiden, the mother, and the crone, you know?
Yeah.
And that just
I just think it's such a big number, and I think that because the 3 of Swords is there, right? I think that people automatically have these really negative connotations with the number 3 in tarot, when I see it as the exact opposite.
Well, it's hard to get it, but after you've moved through it, that's when you start seeing that it was
when you're in the middle of it, it's so hard to see.
It's so hard.
It's so hard to see the forest from the trees, but once you get through it, it's, I don't know, I think it's great.
So this week we are talking about working with the elements: air, fire, water, earth, and I also count spirit personally.
Yeah,
How about you?
definitely.
How about you? Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, when we initially talked about discussing this today, I was like, oh, is she going to be so annoyed if I bring up spirit?
No, I think it's really important. By the way, if anyone doesn't know what the spirit aspect is, I personally classify spirit as like actual spirit workings, deity work, our personal energy and spirit. And even when we like meditate and go to our mind's altar, anything that doesn't really require material per se. How about you?
I consider it the unknown. The 5th element is everything that does not have explanation. Things like, if you believe in souls, our soul counts as part of spirit. Deities, spirits, ghosts, energy, you know what I mean? All these things that are the unknown. The other.
The unknown. The other. The liminal.
That's what I consider spirit. I know lots of people have different definitions for it. And I definitely don't think that they're wrong, but that's part of the beauty of spirit. Is how we can all be right.
Exactly.
Oh, goodness.
So how do you use the elements? How do you choose to use the elements, like for spell work? Like, how do you develop that
before
choice?
we get to that, let's explain let's explain what the elements are. Let's pretend for a minute that you are just green completely. You have no idea what anything is. Today's your first day on planet Earth, and you don't know what elements are. Obviously, we have things like scientific elements in the periodic table of elements, but in magic, we have 4 main elements, 5 if you include spirit. So you have the earth, fire, water, air, spirit. I said all them right? And each one of these elements represent different things symbolically, but they also represent like real, tangible things within the world that exist, and therefore, especially if you follow a kind of animistic path, those elements then take part in your practice.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, no, that makes total sense. I mean, the elements are what builds our world, and like, we interact with them on a daily basis. Like, oh, well, I guess not fire all the time. Typically the other ones.
Even if you think about, actually, wrong. If you think about...
I meant like real
fire. If you think about fire within magic, the sun falls under fire.
Oh, that's true.
And the sun, even when it's behind the clouds, it's there.
Hey, you're right. But we use the elements like for like calling the corners and stuff as a way of honoring them and involving them in spell work. Like air is east, fire is south, west is water, and north is earth. And then I personally for spirit is center.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. But I also, when I'm doing calling the corners, I also do above and below. That I actually got from one of my witchy acquaintances. I was like, that's really cool. So I involved it in my spell work.
I love that.
Yeah.
Especially as I'm a very big believer of as above, so below. So I think that's interesting, and you're going to have to share that with me at a later date. So in terms of the elements, how do you base your choices for incorporating them into your spell work? Like, how do you decide if you want to use elements? And then let's say you have decided, then how do you decide which you're going to use?
Okay, so for like fire, fire is like what I consider, it's passion, it's flame, it's like happiness and quick, effective spell work. Just because they're really easy to do, and like fire is, you know, as I said, it equates to passion and stuff like that. So anytime I'm like, say, sex magic, bonfire, or anything,
I knew you weren't going to be able to resist to bring up sex magic.
Of course,
you horny devil.
It's part of me. It's Aries. It's fine. And then for like water, it's like when I'm working with emotions, cleansing, bath rituals, ocean magic. And I also consider water a carrier for like growth and to amplify magic. And I also equate water to long-term magic.
I equate water with creativity massively, and I know that typically is associated with air, but I don't view it that way. I view air with like inspiration, but like actual creativity, like, I don't know, I view them as different things. Does that make sense?
No, I think it's like two total like different sides of creativity.
Yeah, it's like the same thing, but they're different sides of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like the creativity of water is like feeds your happiness and like, you know, it's the beauty of like creating, while like the air is more like coming up with ideas.
Yeah, the act of doing it.
Yeah. I agree. Let's see. And now for air, like air is also cleansing, and things like movement, like ritual dancing, at least for me personally. Some people would equate that to fire, but I consider, you know, you're moving your body and you're creating your own like air, things like that. And also writing spells, as Robin said, inspiration, and like chanting during spells. And yeah, that's what I personally do. How about you for air?
Oh yeah, I'm on the same exact boat. I view it, I mean, I know this is a pretty good analogy that everybody probably already knows, but the suits, like we talked about earlier in the season for tarot, align very similarly to their magical correspondence as well. So yeah, I am fully on board with you.
Awesome. And earth I use for like grounding, growth, and support. Now, like I don't work with earth much like exclusively, but unless it's like to ground and do crystal grids or just like experiencing it. But I feel like earth is represented like in every single spell. Like it is in
I totally agree.
Yeah, it's in the wax and wick of our candle, and it cradles the water, and is in the herbs we use for baths. It's in our incense sticks that we use. Like, it's almost impossible not to have earth represented in some way during spells. Like, even when working with spirit, you're still like being grounded by the earth and being supported by the earth. So like,
I completely agree.
Yeah, I didn't say many things for earth, but it's still like, it's all around us. Like, yeah.
And the only time that I think that earth specifically I'm focusing on is when I do magic around protection for like my home or my family, anything that I consider like home and hearth. Then I specifically incorporate earth with that.
That makes sense because with threshold spells and stuff like that, that's all
exactly.
Earth.
Exactly. And so in those situations, it becomes a much more intentional incorporation of Earth than like you were describing how it is unavoidable, and I completely agree with that. But I would agree that in terms of like everyday use and trying to call in a specific element, Earth is probably one of my lesser used intentional elements.
Yeah.
Intentionally incorporated.
And I think we already mentioned stuff for spirit, like going to the mind's altar, like deity work and all that. That's also in everything, also, just like with Earth.
If you aren't familiar, when you see a pentacle, oftentimes the top of the pentacle is marked as spirit, as the fifth element. So you have each tip is an element and the top is spirit. I don't know why that came to my mind to tell everyone that, but it did. You're welcome.
I think that's important, especially for newer witches who don't understand, like, you know, what the pentacle represents.
It's not just a satanic symbol.
And I know some people actually, they kind of extend the 4 elements to be, oh gosh, what is it? Like, I don't personally do this, so I'm not going to be able to go off the cusp with this, but like metal and things that. Yeah. But I personally, like, for me, these things still come from the earth and the other elements, so I don't really, you know.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you really want to get into the trenches with it, the elements are also assigned to different mythological creatures, like fire is dragon, sylphs are water, I think. No, maybe sylphs are earth, and then nymphs are water, and newts are water. Newts are also fire, which has never made any sense to me. I don't know why that just popped back in my brain after I said it wrong. Yeah, there's like mythological creatures that are connected with each of the elements, and I do not utilize this at all.
That sounds very 90s. Sorry.
It's true. I mean, it is true, but it also, I believe, and I might be speaking out of turn here, but I believe that it is a big connection with some branches of Wicca as well.
That makes sense.
I might be way out of pocket there. I might be way off. As we all know, I'm not a Wiccan. But I believe that connection also deals with Wicca. And so you might see people who have altars that have like all these mythological creatures on it. And it's not just because they really like, you know, fairy tales. It's because these are symbols that are representative of the elements. I don't know. I always think that's interesting.
Yeah.
It's not for me. Like, I don't utilize it, but...
Do you put the elements on your altar?
I do, yeah. I have feathers for air. You also have incense for air, which doubles for fire as well. I have crystals that I keep, specific ones for earth. I also keep salt on my altar for earth. I have candles as well for fire. And for water, I do not keep water. I keep seashells.
I love that. It's so cute. I do candles for fire and incense for air, and let's see. Oh God, brain fart. Oh, and water. I actually consider the offerings to my guides and stuff as representation as water, because I give coffee and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
I do that as well. Yeah, I do that as well.
Water is kind of like a channel for spirits and stuff like that. That's why we scry and things like that. And so, like, I just personally count that. And I actually count my whole altar as representing Earth, even though I do have crystals and stuff like that. As I said, I think
that makes sense. Yeah,
everything is
especially
supported
if you have like
by
a wooden altar. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think that's really nice.
So, how do you personally choose, like, which elements to use for spell work?
So, it depends on the spell work that I'm doing. I have what I like to call casual spell work and what I like to call, like, serious spell work. Both of them are perfectly fine, but it's stuff that I'm willing to put more energy into because it matters more to me, right? For example, if I was going to do, like, baneful magic, that's not something I want to mess up. That's not something I want to half-ass. So it's going to be something that I put a lot of more energy and time an energy, you know what I mean? Like dedication into. And so I would always call the corners in a spell like that. Where if I had more casual spell work, like I just want to have a good day because I've been having a bad couple of days and I just like want the day to be kind of lucky and joyful, right? That might be a really like fast spell, but I don't do that sort of thing with. It's just something I'm doing at my altar first thing in the morning to kind of set an intention for the day. So if I'm doing large spell work, I always call the corners. And when it comes to like incorporating specific other, you know, energies into that and elements into that, for me, it purely comes down to what is the overall outcome that I want to see. So if it is something that, for example, is prosperity work, I always use that as a great example because I feel like that's something everybody always does to go to prosperity work, right? Is this something I want to see as a long-term growth, right? Or do I need fast money? If it's long-term growth, then I'm going to incorporate things like earth. I'm going to incorporate things like water. Because combined, water and earth create life. You have seeds that grow and they need water and they need earth to do that, right? It gives you that stable foundation. The flow of water means the flow of money, right? These are the things that we're seeing. If it's something like, I need to pay this bill and I don't have this money and I need it now, I'm going straight to fire, baby. And so these are the sort of things that I consider when I'm picking what elements I want to use, is what is the overall outcome I want to see, and also what kind of spell am I doing? Is it, do I need it done fast, or is this something that can be drawn out and I want to see grow slowly over time?
Yeah. Oh, and totally forgot to mention, a bunch of like herbs and also crystals are connected to the elements too.
Oh, yeah.
Like, yeah. So when looking for stuff for like prosperity work, as Robin was mentioning, you might look for something that's earth related, that is connected with earth. And there's so many correspondence books that help you do this.
So many, yeah.
Yeah. And you'll have conflicting, of course, information. Just go with the one that feels right with the history.
Personal opinion. These are things that, there's stuff that has historical context, but there's also UPG that's involved. And so for some people, kind of like Maria was talking about earlier, about how like the emotions of creating come from water, right? But we can also see it in air. It comes down to our personal opinion on that. I
completely agree. Yeah, and then for calling the corners and stuff, for me, I'm on the same page as you. I do it for like larger spells. But typically I don't do it unless it's for like a huge ritual, just because I already view my home as a sacred place. And I have things that represent the elements all through my home. They're constantly honored. Like, my home is my safe place. And
a lot of people actually put watchtowers in their homes, symbolic watchtowers at the cardinal directions. And so if you already have that as like a permanent fixture in your home, I feel like you could probably skip that in general, like altogether, because it is a part of your home, just like you said. Yeah. I don't have that personally as an option with how our house is manufactured. It's not an option to do that sort of thing in my home. So
Robin's home represents the element of metal.
My home, it's air, right? Because it's traveling.
Yeah, that's deep.
You like that?
That's deep.
Yeah, it's really deep. Yeah.
But I love using like the moon's astrological position as inspiration for like which element to work with and how to work with it, which I think is great for any witch to consider, especially if like you're eager to do spell work but you're like don't necessarily know which spell to do. Like if it's a Scorpio moon, I'll do something like with water and with a little bit of fire, like having a scrying session in the bath with a candle, like I said on the Discord. Like
I gave that as advice to one of our mentees actually last month.
Yeah,
bathtub scrying, the best.
It's nice.
It's so good.
It's so good. And I personally go through phases of which element I work with the most. Like if I'm going through a super emotional time, I typically find myself using water more. And if I'm going through a phase that's like super passionate or like I'm constantly like irritated, I'll probably work with fire more. So I kind of like lean into those phases and don't fight against them and try to like incorporate spell work that I need to do around those things, because I feel like it's kind of like the element reaching out to you eagerly to help you like in certain situations. And then what else was I gonna say? As Robin said about like using fire for like quick stuff and water for like long lasting stuff, that's always on my mind too. Like fire is definitely it depends on what type of candle you use. Like if you're going to be using a 7-day candle, obviously that's like more sustaining, like, but I feel at least with the 7-day candle, you should see a little bit, at least, you know, like periodically some movement already at the beginning. But yeah, no, I agree.
I'm with you on this, baby.
I'm like doing a lot of mumbling, but it's fine.
I think that the elements are something that even if you aren't somebody who aligns with a more animistic practice, I think that there's something to at least consider to incorporate into your practice, because it just adds that extra layer of correspondence. I've seen a lot. I'm going to be a little shady right now, and I don't mean to be mean, so please take this for what it is. But I've seen a lot of spells lately that have been coming up on social media where I'm like, where are we getting this correspondence from? Like, just me personally, I don't understand some of it. But again, we go back to UPG. And then I have to ask myself, okay, maybe, like, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they're using elemental things in terms of their ingredients. And that's just something I'm missing. And so I feel like if you do utilize elemental things in your practice, perhaps to outsiders like me seeing on social media, it might be like, why are they using that? But for you, it makes perfect sense because it's aligning with your intention that is element based. So it's something to just consider. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's another layer of correspondence that is really beneficial. So.
Yeah, and you know, the whole point of like witchcraft is like to connect us deeper to the earth and like to work with the earth. So why not involve involve the elements in spell work for that extra little oomph and a way to honor it.
Absolutely.
So, Robin, what is stirring your cauldron this week?
I'm so glad you asked. Oh my gosh. Okay, I have two things that are stirring my cauldron this week. The first one is that Liminal 11 sent me the Mystic Melodies Tarot poster book. Okay, look at this.
Okay, let's see it.
They're giant major arcana cards. This hasn't come out yet. This is coming out in June, I think she said. But Mystic Melodies is my favorite tarot deck. Mystical Melodies is my favorite tarot deck right now, period. It's the rubber band vintage comic style. I'm obsessed with it. I am going to frame these and put these in my child's bedroom. I think it's great. So I am very excited about that. The second thing that is stirring my cauldron this week is our Discord. So Maria has been she's been like setting up a monthly mixer on our Discord, and it's something that we might show up to, we might not show up to, but it's just for people to like hang out, drink, you know, chat, just get to know each other in a non educational kind of format.
Non-educational or typing. Like it's more,
The last 2 months, they have done Quiplash for it, and it has been, which is a game. It's like a game where you get presented prompts, and then you have to give an answer for the prompt, and then people vote on who had the best answer, and that's how you get points. They have made it Coffee and Cauldrons themed for the last 2 months. And when I tell you it's so fucking funny, the answers that they've given, I've made Erin, who has hosted it, she's amazing. Erin has taken the time to make all these questions Coffee and Cauldrons themed. And they are so funny. The answers are so fucking funny. Like, so funny. Maria and I get roasted the whole time. It's amazing. Yeah. It's amazing. I just think it's great. And I love that, like, they've taken organically on their own. They've taken this, like, silly little, let's hang out on this first Friday of the month and made this, like, great, like, game time. I don't know. I love our Discord so much, and this is so on brand for them, and it just makes me really happy.
I forgot there was one that that Erin posted. I think it was like, what book is definitely on Maria's bookshelf? And it was like how to, like, oh my gosh, what was it? It was like how to be not, oh my gosh, it's gonna bother me.
It was something about smoldering, I think.
Oh yeah, the user's guide to smoldering. That's what it was.
That's what it was.
I was like, oh,
They're
that's
so
definitely
funny.
on my bookcase. 100%.
I'm trying to scroll up to find some of the best answers because they're just so fucking funny. Like, Erin's like, sorry guys, we're kind of roasting you, and I was like, continue, please, roast us more. This is so funny.
I want pictures.
They're so funny. Like, I just scrolled up to find some of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
What isn't stirring your cauldron is the prompt, right? The answers are slightly underdone tofu quiche. First of all, fuck you. And the second one is, I'm so glad you asked. I just think it's so fun. I love that they're doing it. I think it's amazing. I love that they're roasting the shit out of us. Like, it's so funny.
Yeah, it's like Cards Against Humanity, but it's Coffee and Cauldrons.
It's so good. So, Maria, what's not stirring your cauldron this week?
So, I think at the beginning of the year, what was stirring my cauldron or something like that was like the hermitness, like how I was like, I'm going to like be very hermity, I'm going to learn. And I was like, I'm totally going to be out of it by now. Like, I'll want to do, I'll be so ready to do stuff and, like, you know, be in the outside world, like, happily. Wild. But like, yeah, no. It's the hermit life for me, apparently. Although not of my choosing, but it's fine. I mean, I pulled some cards from the deck I'll actually be hyping for like creators for a living. Mm-hmm. And I got Ebb and Chaos, and I'm like, well, and I just keep pulling them, so and the whole, like, even the descriptions of them, it's like compassion, like, just go through it to get through it, and I'm like, but it's supposed to be done by now, and I'm ready to not be like in my hermit world. Thanks.
Thank you so much. But, I am ready to be done. This has been wonderful.
I mean, I'm like a fire sign. Like, there's only so much like chill I can keep doing. Like, I was supposed to take it easy all last week and just like relax. And then I wrote Robin. I was like, I'm hurting. I'm having a flare. And Robin's like, you did too much, didn't you? I'm like, yes, I did do too much.
She doesn't know how to relax.
My version of relaxing is rage cleaning. So, I mean,
would you like to relax at my house then?
We'll just listen to my emo playlist and get shit done. Yes.
I listen to that in the car almost every day. I'm not even kidding. I love that playlist. It's perfect.
I need to post it to my, like, move over this, because it's on my personal Spotify, so I need to move it over. You can
copy it over, yeah.
Yeah.
It's perfect. It's a perfect playlist in every way.
In every way. Any song you can think of that was, like, from the mid 2000s that we all jammed to with Scene Hair.
Good.
It's on.
Like, there'll be times where I've listened to this playlist now for 3 years, something like that, 3 or 4 years now. I've listened to this playlist routinely, and there'll be times where I'll be like, I didn't know she put Jimmy World on here. This is amazing. I did know, but I forgot.
There's like 300 songs on it or more.
So
I can't remember. But actually, I've been listening to it a lot as I've been going through my hermitness. So it fits.
Hey there. Oh my God.
I know.
If you've just joined us this week, every week we talk about creators that we are loving right now. This could be anyone from photographers, illustrators, bloggers, just anything. These are not ads. These are organic finds by us. And this season we have been having listener submitted suggestions as a third option. So that being said, Maria, who are you loving this week?
So, I recently received the Threads of Fate deck, the Empyrean Tarot, and it's a holographic, not tarot, sorry, Oracle. They are releasing a tarot deck, of it, but it's an Oracle, and it's holographic, and they're just so freaking neat, and so cool, and so well done. I've never seen a holographic deck before, and the way that they did it is just so beautiful and so stunning. Like, it has it's completely up my alley because it's like the statues and like vintagey ladies, and I don't know, they're just super stunning and gorgeous and so like strange. Strange because you don't see them at all, and they actually shuffle like super well. Like, I just do the overhand. I've never
seen a deck like it. It's so pretty.
Yeah, I do it until like a card falls out and there's no issues. I mean, I wouldn't do the whole riffle shuffle with it, but no, like, they're very well made, and I highly recommend like looking at them. They also have 3 decks coming out on Kickstarter that I got sent samples of, and they're all like really neat and cool too. Like, the rune deck that they have coming out is so freaking neat. Like, just the art on it is so stunning. Like, for the Kickstarter alone, like, that one is worth like just shoving, throwing money at because it's so beautiful.
Take my money.
Yeah, and then through the Kickstarter, they also have the tarot deck that's holographic, also coming out. So yeah,
so cool.
So, who you been loving?
So, actually, a friend of mine sent me this artist. They're called Toxic Moxie. It's like Toxic Moxie. And they do these really beautiful little illustrations of like ghosts and stuff like that. I feel like I maybe mentioned them before. When I picked them for this week, I was like, have I talked about this artist before? But maybe I haven't. I'm totally obsessed with their artwork. I think it is so freaking cute. They have a illustration that they posted on February 5th of an inky mushroom that is so freaking cute that I just want to squeeze it. I don't know. I just think it's so stinking cute, and I'm in love with it. So
they're really cute. It reminds me of like if Animal Crossing was ghost mushrooms, and
yeah.
Idea people who make Animal Crossing. I would totally play haunted Animal Crossing. Like that sounds like so much fun.
Oh goodness, who is our listener submitted creator this week?
So it is Oracle of Roses by, oh my gosh, I'm going to totally mispronounce this name, and I'm so sorry. I'm going to do my best, though.
You're going to do your best.
Cheralyn
Yeah, I think that's totally right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's totally right.
Yeah, but they're so beautiful, and it's kind of like, oh my gosh, language for flowers, but all roses, and obviously an Oracle deck. And I really like that style. It's like the old botanical illustrations of flowers, which I have like 5 books that have them all. So big fan, and a very stunning deck, which I need to add to my others. So thanks for that.
She's got a problem, people.
I do have a problem. I do. I already have like 4 other decks. So I'm like, give me. I need them.
Give them to me.
Yeah, and I already have received like 5 this year. So it's not a problem. It's a collection. I'm a collector.
Good. It's fine. You've never been better. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We hope that we will see you again on Friday, May 19th for our Coffee Talk episode, or May 26th for the 10th episode of Season 4. You can keep an eye out on our social media or head to our website, coffeeandcauldrons.com, to find out more information and see what we are up to. And don't forget to join us on Patreon May 27th for an Intro to Spell Crafting class hosted by Ella Harrison for the library tier and up. If you miss it, it will be available recorded that's like immediately after the class, because we switched how we were doing them. So it's like instantly it's available to watch.
Yeah, and I really like the new platform because you can see the questions like super easy. You don't have to go to a
much
total
more
different
interactive.
screen.
Yeah, much more interactive. I think it's great, and I don't know, everybody seems really happy with it.
Yeah.
So that is how we will be proceeding forward. And there will hopefully now never ever be another issue with the videos just not working.
You better knock on wood. So additionally, our Patreon Magical Beginnings offers our special 25-minute part 2 episode, a huge library of articles about witchcraft, a Discord community full of fun events like spells that we do as a group, a book club,
mixer.
Yeah, the mixer. And group meditation. Like there's so many things going on. And
we literally have 6 events every month.
Yeah, and we have like the most amazing people on there.
We do.
So yeah, come join us. And we even have a tier that offers one-on-one conversations with Robin and myself.
Yes. Come let us mentor you. And please, if you love our sexy, sensual, just chef kiss voices, take a moment to review us on your streaming service, such as Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever else you are tuning in from. We love reading your reviews, and rating us with 5 stars helps us to be seen by others. Thank you for everybody who already has and everyone who will in the future.
So again, this is Coffee and Cauldrons.
With Robin from Out of Tired Witch on Instagram.
And I'm Maria from @MariaTheArcane on Instagram.
All right, ready?
1, 2, 3. Bye,
witches!